all-star cast here. We have David Mendelson, Marc Luino, and pitching ninja himself, Rob Freeman, to talk about creating baseball content. Guys, thank you so much for being here at PitchCon.
Thanks for having us, Nick. This is awesome. Everything about it is fantastic.
Well, it's a representation of all of you taking the time to be a part of it, so thank you so much. I'm going to let you guys go at it. And remember, pitcherlist.com/PitchCon. Hit that green button. Contribute to the cause. And we're going to do, I believe it, we're going to hit the $10,000 goal by the end of the day. So help us get there. Take it away, guys.
Let's go.
All right. Well, this is quite a panel and all-star cast. Welcome into the 2 p.m. panel of PitchCon. And whoever's tuning in, thanks so much for hanging out with us for the next hour. Got a fun panel planned here for you guys, of course. But just like Nick said, if you could donate, remember 50% of all proceeds donated will benefit the Feeding America charity, which is a network of food banks that feed over 40 million Americans. And it's a great cause. Like Nick said, if you want to go donate, you can go to pitcherlist.com/PitchCon/2022, or you can just check out his page at PitcherList on Twitter, and you'll be able to find the link to get there too. Just reached over $7,400. So awesome stuff there. Yeah.
We'll get them over right now. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So these two gentlemen you see here, I got to introduce them the proper way before we get started here. The guy that you see below me, right on the bottom of the screen here, we welcome in a man that you could call the gentleman of gifts and grips. He's an MLB and ESPN pitching contributing analyst, the founder and CEO of Flat Ground Pitching and Flat Ground Hitting. And if that's not enough, still has the time to keep his beard well-groomed and the envy of many. I need you to put your hands together for the man who has the logo seen all around the world and is stealthy with how he sneaks up on you with his fire pitching videos. It is Rob Freeman, a.k.a. the Pitching Ninja. How's it going, man?
It's going great. That's a good intro. I'm never going to live up to that.
No, man, you're doing awesome work, both of you. And I'll be remiss not to mention the other guy you see on screen here to my right. We welcome in a man that might only be known as Giraffe Neck because of how much higher he's above the competition. He's an MLB content creator, University of South Carolina graduate, and host of the Mets Up podcast. You need to check this man out on the tubes, as he has over 200,000 subscribers, giving you tons of great content and shocked faces in his thumbnails. Ladies and gentlemen, the Don of the thumbnails, and always a step ahead of you on what's hot. It's Marc Luino, aka Giraffe Neck. Mark, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Super excited to be here. That was a good intro too. That was very solid. I got to give it to you. You came prepared.
Should we do the surprise?
Yeah. That's the face. That's the face everybody loves. You guys do a great job on both Twitter, YouTube. You guys are all over the place, and it's a fun topic to talk about. The art of creating baseball content. You guys we could call you the Wilt Chamberlains of the 60s. We could call you the big dogs, like a Great Dane or something like that. You guys are doing amazing work. And I just wanted to kind of go through, just ask you guys some questions about how you kind of got to where you are, where if you're stuck, how you think of new ideas and ways to keep yourself fresh. So I just want to dive in right with the first question. And Rob, we can start with you. What made you decide you wanted to create your own content? Was there any inspirations for you? Was there an itch you just had to scratch without much influence from others? What made you want to do it?
Really? So I actually started out more from the coaching angle. So I was coaching travel ball, high school, all that, and learned from some of the best out there. And I felt like it was kind of my obligation to pay it forward, like what I had learned. So I started really from like the grips mechanics angle, and then started realizing like people wanted more cool stuff. So I did more like entertainment type stuff too. But it was really like I knew I wasn't going to coach forever. So I didn't want it to stop with me. I wanted to do something good with the knowledge I had versus just letting it peter out and make people like not make the same mistakes I did, and kind of grow the sport too at the same time. It shouldn't be a rich person's sport. It should be available to everybody. And I thought that was kind of the key.
Yeah, and it's very accessible. It's very unique, the stuff that you're doing. And I like how it relates to fantasy, and it can also relate to just fans of the game itself. Mark, same question for you. What was your inspiration for creating content?
Yeah, I've always been a big baseball fan. From playing since I was younger, like my first memories are playing baseball. So I was always involved in it. And then when I got to college, I was no longer playing, and I still needed kind of this like outlet to be able to be involved in baseball. And while the YouTube community wasn't really as strong as it is today, I saw a niche in MLB The Show where I could still be interacting with baseball fans, but in something that people would watch. And then I knew hopefully one day I'd eventually be able to turn it into actually just talking about baseball, which I've been lucky to do so far. But yeah, baseball has been my entire life. So I had to find a way to continue that, even though I was no longer actively involved in it.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, kind of transitioning. You mentioned your niche, and so I'll go right back to you, Mark. How did you figure out your name and your niche? Because both of you guys have very unique names, and you guys do very unique work over all the different outlets. So, how did you figure that out for yourself, Mark?
Yeah, so I actually had been creating YouTube content under a different channel name, actually making FIFA videos because that's what I was really into when I first started making YouTube videos. And I was streaming on Twitch. My college roommate came into the room. He mooned the camera. I got banned. He can't do that on Twitch. So all the people in the chat were talking about how I had a really long neck. So I was like, okay, how are these people going to be able to find me again when I go live? Let's do Giraffe neck because that's what everyone was calling me during the stream. My friend from England actually gave me that nickname. And it just kind of stuck. So yeah, I mean, my neck's maybe not the longest. It probably looked a little bit longer when I was, really just getting started in college. But yeah, Giraffe neck came because my original Twitch account got banned.
Oh man, I've never really. I figured Giraffe had something to do with a neck reference, but yeah, you have a very nice neck, Mark. I think
normal sized. I think now.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it, dude.
Thank you.
Rob, what about you, man?
So mine came from like original. So this is a longer story, I guess. Not a longer story. My wife is half Japanese. My son's a quarter Japanese. When we were playing, and I was coaching, actually my son originally, they wanted to call him Ninja and he hated it. And I'm like, dude, I'm the ninja anyway, because I'm the pitching coach and I'm the one who's like creating little ninjas. So I took that nickname and then ran it from there.
Yeah. So the pitching ninja, it's very, again, like anybody hears that, they know exactly what it is. The logo itself obviously stands out. And I mean, both you guys, again, the names, logos, everything is very unique for you guys. So I'm curious, when you guys created your name, your niche, you kind of have the areas you're creating content. Which audience, at least initially, obviously it's probably grown over time, but which audience was your content designed for initially, and has it changed over time? So again, was it originally designed maybe for real baseball people to look at, and then it evolved into fantasy? Was it fantasy and then now more real baseballs looking at it? What did you say was your target market over time? Rob, we can start with you.
Yeah, so I originally started out trying to help really high school players and coaches get access to information. And travel ball players and parents. So it was really about sharing that information, then expanded to college pro guys like that. I never thought was going to happen. That was so weird to me to have like pro guys reach out and say, I saw this, what do you think about this? I'm like, all right, well, I mean, that's cool. But certainly didn't ever think about that. And totally started out on Twitter. So it was about evolving on Twitter. Now I'm on, everything I do, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't have as many subscribers as Mark, but I'm coming for you, man. I just need a longer neck.
You'll get there without a doubt.
Yeah, isn't it kind of a little overwhelming at times with all the new avenues that come out? You're like, I have to do TikTok now. Like, I have to do this. Like, if I want everybody to see me, I have to make sure, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. It's so much that sometimes it's hard to keep track of. I'm sure you guys
love
definitely.
it though. Like there's different content takes off on different, on the different platforms, and it just really depends. So it makes you, I guess, have to do different things, which is fun. Like I like longer form videos, which I say you do more on YouTube, but then quick hitting type stuff, TikTok or Instagram Reels or something like that, and then Twitter, same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, what's really impressive is I know you guys are pretty much doing it all yourselves too. So it's like you have to basically spread yourself apart with all those different things, which is very impressive. Mark, I do want to hear your answer as well. What is your audience as far as what is your target market when you make your content?
Yeah, so I kind of have like a bunch of different niches almost inside of the content that I make. You'll see like I call them banger videos, right? And those are videos I think that anybody could watch, whether you have the smallest interest in baseball to a diehard fan to maybe you don't even know anything about baseball. I think those are videos that people could click on, could watch, and could honestly enjoy them. And those are kind of like the videos that I try to put my most time and energy into because they do get the most views. They do help the channel grow the most, and it does reach the most people. But I still do my videos that are for the diehard fans. There's still some stuff that's a little more specific and intricate, but really at the end of the day, I am trying to reach as many people as possible. So I try not to get too specific. Try not to hone in on one player or one team, because you really do, at least on the YouTube side, limit yourself from who's really going to watch that. Because let's be honest, as much as we might love a guy like Ty France, most Major League Baseball fans are regional. They're very specific. If you're not a Mariners fan or in that diehard category, you're not really going to be interested in Ty France on YouTube.
And one of the things I really like that you do is you'll have one video where you're doing a Sporkle quiz and people can hop in with that. And then you'll have a video breaking down the top trade deadline candidates, and then a video breaking down the top 10 fantasy first basemen. So you have a very well-rounded, unique set of videos on your channel. So I think you kind of do appeal to a lot of different people in those ways, which I think is really awesome.
He got me to do that quiz. I watched this video and I was like, all right, I got to try this.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's so funny because the quiz videos for me, like, not that they're not good content, but like they are the easier videos essentially for me to make, just because really at the end of the day, I sit in front of my camera. There's no real research involved. It's just me dropping all my baseball knowledge that I know. But from everyone that I hear, those are always the ones that are like, man, I love the quiz videos. Like, you got to keep doing those. I hop on, I do them. And like, to me, that's really cool, because it's not only you're just watching like a video that pops up on YouTube, but I'm getting you involved. You're almost like becoming a part of the community, which is something that's like, if you would have told me this 3 or 4 years ago, I never would have believed it.
Did you cheat a little bit, or is that all you?
No, that's all me. I have so much useless knowledge about baseball in my head that, I mean, now it's not useless because it's what I do. But yeah, instead of like, you know, learning algebra and stuff, I was learning who hit the most home runs in 2006.
What's the better way
than that? Yeah,
totally. Yeah, of course.
What's the better way to have your face on one of those thumbnails? Is it like you're not going to believe the answer for this question, or is it more like the toughest quiz ever and you're like scratching your head?
See, it depends, because if I do really well or if I do really badly, I could do, you know, surprise. But if it's a hard one, I could give you the like, oh my God, like I don't know what's going on. Like it really depends on what the title is going to be. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, titles are a big part of it, right? Content creation, you got to have that attention grabbing thing that people are going to want to click on. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. You can't just have, you know, fantasy baseball first baseman. You have to have like top 10 fantasy baseball first baseman. You're not going to believe number 6 or something like that, you know, like that. You have that attention grabber. And I think you both do a really good job. And Rob, you do a really good job too, not just with attention grabbing things, but you have very unique videos. And I've seen you did the knuckleball one recently, and it's just like, you know, it's just knuckleball porn, like watching just, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of knuckleball straight. Nowhere else you're going to find stuff like that. And that's kind of what's really cool about your content.
And it took several days of watching knuckleballs to do. Like, that was a hard one. I had to find, like, make sure I found everybody's grips, explained correctly and all that. But that was so much fun. Like, just watching people flail at knuckleballs. I mean, what's better than that? That's awesome content creation.
I mean, we've all thrown a knuckleball. When my days of pitching, you know, if you want to call it that, knuckleball is my go-to. I mean, it's the favorite pitch of everybody, I feel like.
Because you can do it when you're like 80.
Yeah.
Still throw knuckleballs by.
Oh, yeah. Well, next one I want to ask you guys, it might have been my favorite question I was writing down before the show. What was your first wow moment in terms of when you realized your content reaches a lot of people? Like, did you have a video that went viral? Did you have just a moment that you personally was like, this is what everything is for me right now? Is there a specific video or a moment that happened for you? Why don't we can start with you, Mark?
Yeah, so I made a switch from going from MLB The Show to actual baseball, like during kind of just the middle of the baseball season. And I was slowly getting views, but when Jabari Blash got traded to the Yankees, which is such an insignificant trade really in the whole scheme of baseball, but because of what Jabari Blash was on my channel prior, the fact that I'm such a big Mets fan and a big thing of mine is like being anti-Yankee, when he got traded there, it was like a match made in heaven. I had this huge video of essentially like a 4A player that blew up on YouTube. His brother saw it and then sent it to Jabari. Jabari reached out to me that night, and that was like the first time really that I had a major league player kind of acknowledge the stuff that I was doing. And he loved it. We've become friends now, which is really cool. But that was like the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not just, you know, these 20, 30,000 people that are watching it. There's actually like baseball players and people who have, you know, pull that are seeing this stuff. It kind of really inspired me to keep going and really made me want to continue to do what I do.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a player's reaching out to you, that has to be like, oh my man, like this is legit what I'm doing right now, and I can see why it's so motivating for you at that point. And again, look where it's leading to right now. Rob, what about you? What's your wow moment?
I think the first was when I was like much smaller on Twitter, and Billy Wagner actually DM'd me about Randy Johnson's mechanics. I think something I had said, like he didn't use his lower half really well. And Billy in the DMs was like, no, he did. He used his lower half. And I was like, and I showed him it, and he's like, wow, I think I agree with you. And they were on the same team. They both played for the Astros at some point. So I thought that was really cool. And then, like, seriously, like every day, I mean, I get amazed. Player interaction, fan interaction. It's just like, I don't know. It's stuff I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes on Twitter, like the stuff I do in the off season. I don't have a planned thing. Like I'll just wake up in the middle of the night going, I haven't done a Jacob deGrom video in a while, and I really want to see what this looks like. And I'll just do it. And if people like it, that's awesome. But yeah, it's just all so much fun.
You mean like the video you put today with his
video I put today,
video,
yes.
The outside fastballs?
Dude, that was sick.
It really was. I watched the whole thing. Like I was like, oh my God, this is just fantastic. Like I could watch this on a loop all day. It was awesome.
Jordan Hicks one out of the blue. I was like, you know, I'm so excited for him to be back that I just want to see his stuff. And if everybody else likes it, that's good. But I want to see it. So that's what I'm going to do.
Rob, I know specifically you talked to a lot of players too. Was there one player you've talked to that you were really, really nervous and you kind of had to collect yourself before you talked with them?
Oh yeah, at the All-Star game, Max Scherzer was it was really weird because I didn't so I'm sitting there minding my own business. I think I was talking to like Eno Saris and Jeff Passan, just hanging out, and Max comes over and said, "Yeah, I want to talk to Pitching Ninja," and I was like, "I didn't know you know who I am, but let's do this." And I had no questions, so I just had to make it up, and I tried to give him a bro hug because he like grabs my hand, you know, it's like, "Hey man, I love your stuff." And the way you'd normally do it is like a little bro hug after that. So I tried it, and he just almost fell over his feet getting out of the way of that one. Like it was hilarious. It was like, no way, you're not touching me. That's not going to happen. And I was like, oh, yeah. I wondered if it looked as bad on video. And like, oh yeah, it did. That was exactly what happened.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. But it's really cool. I'm Max Scherzer saying I got to meet Pitching Ninja. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, weird.
So you guys create a lot of content, as we've kind of outlined here. I'm curious what a typical week of creating content looks like for you guys. So do you have a strict schedule? Is it kind of more off a whim? Do you like, I want to do this, I want to do this? So Rob, why don't we start with you? What does a typical week of content creation look like for you?
On Twitter, it is really top of mind. So it is my lack of ability to sleep through the night. So I wake up and at 3 a.m, I'll go, I wonder what this would look like, or really stuff like that. It's during the season, it's different. During the season, it just depends on what the games are, and what really strikes me is, you know, it's standing out, and I'll do multiple. But during the off season, it's really who do I want to feature. For YouTube, it's a longer process than that. I think some of those are more research and take several days to put out. Some of them, again, though, it may be something I did on Twitter that I just want to get out there. And same thing with I think TikTok and Instagram are a little bit more like Twitter, where I'll be a little quicker with them. What
about you, Mark?
Yeah, a little different because definitely YouTube's more of my focus. You know, Twitter's mostly just tweets for me. I'm not putting too much video content out there. But on YouTube, I mean, you're looking at a lot of research, a lot of just seeing what's on YouTube, seeing what's working for other people, and finding out if I can apply that to me for baseball. In terms of, I'm super lucky. I found an editor in the last year who's been helping me out a lot. So that's a huge, boost. Shout out to Jackson for helping me out there. But I just kind of sit in front of the camera for 45 minutes to an hour a day. But then the research, the thumbnails, the title, that stuff takes up so much time. Along with just kind of being around baseball consistently. Like you're always on the clock, at least it feels like for me, because I could see something go, ooh, that's a really good idea. Let me see if I can now put this into baseball terms.
How important is the thumbnail versus the title versus the content?
The content, this is going to sound horrible, but the content is almost not important. I think as long as you have like a good microphone, you know what you're talking about, and you speak clearly, you can kind of get away with the content being a little lacking if you have a killer title and thumbnail, because at the end of the day, YouTube is about clicking and watching the video, right? So you first have to get the people to click in order to watch. It doesn't matter how good the video is. If someone doesn't click, they won't watch it. So in order to get people there, you have to have that title that grabs their attention. You have to have that thumbnail that kind of pops and separates it from everything else that's on YouTube. Got to put it on the homepage and see, is this something that my eye goes to immediately? And once you figure that out, that's kind of when the views start to roll in. And then, you start to learn tricks and things that work and things that don't. And it's a whole process, but it's so vastly more important than the actual content itself, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested. A couple questions building off of that. Number one, how important do you take SEO research, figuring out what are the key terms you got to put in for people to click? And then do you find that consistent thumbnails are a better way to go? Or do you think it's different? Like, do you think the same theme so people know it's consistent? Or do you think changing it up completely every video is a better way to go about it?
Yeah, so SEO, this is going to sound crazy, but on YouTube, it's just irrelevant. It doesn't matter at all. I still do tags because I'm like an old school YouTuber, and that like it used to be really important to have those search terms because that's how most people figured it out. But YouTube, the algorithm is built in such a way that it just cares about click-through rate and watch time. So you just got to figure out how to get people to click and then how to get them to watch longer. And that way your video will continue to get pushed. So search terms isn't really important. But like in the title, yeah, if I'm talking about Fernando Tatis Jr., I'm definitely including his name in the title, but that's not really the SEO side of it. That's more so because people want to see that. And what was the next question? My bad.
No, you're good. I was questioning, so is it better to have consistent thumbnails where it's almost the same looking one every time, or is it better to have them completely different?
Yeah, it depends. Like I think there's definitely a theme to my series on my channel. Like my rankings all kind of look the same. They have like the same, structure with different stuff inside of it. Same thing with my quiz videos. But I don't think you need to make sure that there's there's a difference between all of them, because if they all look the same, there's a good chance that the average person is gonna be like, I've seen this already, so why am I going to click it? Because you got to remember, like, as big as you edit it out on Photoshop, they're really only seeing an actual thumbnail size. So from the outside looking in, if they're not a subscriber, if they're not a diehard, if they're not looking at the subscription feed, they might not know that it's a new video because the face looks exactly the same, or it's a copy of what another thumbnail looks like from afar. Got to make sure that people know that they haven't seen this stuff before.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, just kind of all the little things that go into making content on YouTube, and even on Twitter. Rob, I'm curious, kind of switching it back to Twitter for a second before we go to another question. So we talked about all the intricacies that go into making a YouTube video and to make sure it's seen, and if SEO is important, all that stuff. For Twitter, when you were a little smaller and you had to get your content seen by more people, were there tricks? Did you add tags in there? Were you adding players so they could see it? What were you doing?
I definitely never, and I still rarely will add a player because I think it's just too, I don't know, thirsty. It's just like, I just don't want, I'd want them to find it themselves. And if they do, and they say something, I might retweet that like in a quote tweet type way. But generally, like I always figured if I did unique content and took my own spin on it, like I didn't want to copy anybody. I wanted to look at the sport the way I look at it, from a coaching standpoint, from a fan standpoint, what I found interesting. And if nobody else finds it interesting, that's life. But usually other people do. So it's really about finding your own voice and being unique and staying. So this is the one thing I think people mess up on. They always ask, like, what does it take to be a good content creator? Like, what's the trick? I think it's also about work. Like, you've got to be consistent and you've got to do it, like live it. I do every day and still do it every day, where I wake up, first thing I do is find something interesting that I want to tweet about, and I will stay on it and respond to people and try to, like, I learn from comments that people have, like, I didn't like this, I do like this, oh, this is awesome. But it's mostly about hard work and being consistent and taking it seriously. And people have a really hard time with that. People, if they don't see it going well at first, they tend to quit. And that's not a good way to do it.
No, 100% agree. And I think part of the creating content, you're putting a bunch of different things out there. You're getting feedback. One of the things I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts about it, and Rob, we can start with you. How do you get over the feeling of feeling stagnant? So in other words, like if you hit a lull and things aren't moving as much as you thought they would move, how do you stay motivated, especially earlier on when maybe it wasn't picking up as much traction as you would like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly, I am kind of ADD-ish. Like, I like to do different, like I have to not get bored. And if I'm finding myself getting bored, I'm going to learn something new editing wise, or I'm going to learn something new pitch wise, or I'm going to just do something different, look at different content to maybe get inspired, or look at different pitchers. Like sometimes you get in a rut, like there's only so many Jacob deGrom videos you can do. So you've got to look at other things. But it's really, because my way my mind works, I've always been like that. Like I can't pay attention for a long period of time. This is about as long as you're going to get me to pay attention. And so I think it comes naturally to me, especially like Twitter, that format where it's very quick hitting. And you'll see most of my YouTube videos are not longer ones. I'm 2 to 8 minutes, occasionally a longer one. Interviews are longer, but that's how I think.
Yeah, and this is a good transition to Mark too, as he answers that question. Is there an ideal length where you're like, I don't want to go more than this and don't go less than this?
Yeah, I try, like, especially because on YouTube, if you are under 8 minutes, you can't put mid-roll ads. And YouTube, as much as people don't like to talk about it, like it is a money-making game at the end of the day, especially for YouTube as a website. So those videos that are longer are going to generate them more revenue too. So they tend to get pushed. And especially when watch time is something that's so important. If you have a video that has 20% watch time, that's a minute long, it's not very long. But if you have 20% watch time on a 10-minute video, it's significantly longer. So it's really important to keep them on there as long as possible. But for the question about how do you find yourself not getting stagnant, or what do you do? At least for me, a lot of the time, usually when I feel that, it's because I've been going so hard for so long. And like Rob said, you're constantly working. If you're not grinding this thing, it's really not for you. I kind of just step away for a little bit. I take a break for a couple of days, maybe just kind of get away from all the social media, get away from YouTube, and kind of let my brain defog. That's kind of something that's helped me. I used to not really do it as much in the past because I was so worried about not being involved every single day, every single hour, replying, commenting, posting. But it really is so important that, at least for the creative side, to take that break so that your brain can kind of just think about something else, and that can help you then get the juices flowing again.
Yeah, and I think part of feeling stagnant too, which I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this too. Do you find yourself, part of it could also be if you see competitors around you that seem like they're doing better and that they're like, hey, why are they picking up stuff and I'm not? Did you find that went into the feeling along the way, or was it where, hey, I'm going to tunnel vision, I don't care what the other people are doing? Is it harder to transition into that type of thinking? Mark, what do you usually do when all those other people on YouTube are trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of lucky in that there hasn't been too many people who do the exact same thing as me. The baseball community is so unique on YouTube, where you have Foolish Baseball, who does those crazy, baseball bits videos. And I'll never do that kind of stuff. It's not my thing. And he kills it. And then you have Fuzzy, who does the daily recaps. And again, that's not my thing. He kills it with those. My thing's the opinion and analysis side. And while you can see those guys doing well, I never take it as discouraging, because really at the end of the day, on YouTube, when everybody's doing well, that's just more people who are getting eyes on baseball. And those are more people that I can get on me, as long as I do my job of making videos they want to watch. So I almost use it more as a positive. Everybody's doing well. That means that there's an ability for me to do well as well, which is saying well a lot, but
it's all good. It's all well. It's all good. So with everything changing, we kind of touched on it a little earlier. There's a lot more outlets in different social media. And I feel like the attention span for people watching content is a lot shorter than it used to be. Have you guys found yourself adapting your content over time in that sense? What have you done to make your content different and appeal to more people over time? We can start back with you, Mark. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, so I have not figured out TikTok for the life of me. I can't figure it out. I know what I have to do, but I don't understand exactly how to translate my content into what goes on TikTok, because all my videos are about 10 to 15 minutes long. So it's really difficult to figure that out. But short form is not really ever going to probably be my main thing, but I'm definitely trying to keep my intro shorter. Something that I've definitely seen people complain about at times is you talk for a minute until you actually get into the video. And I agree, I should probably just get into it a lot quicker, or maybe not spending 2.5 minutes on one specific player, jumping around and covering more guys rather than focusing on one guy for so long. So the idea is still kind of the same in that short form, but it's now spreading it out over a 10-minute video instead of just one 30-second, clip.
Do you find that time codes are a big deal, that if you have videos with time codes in, they do a lot better than if they didn't have time codes in?
Yeah, I haven't experimented with it too much. I've tried it. I haven't seen a huge difference for me. And especially because like I'm so conflicted because on YouTube, again, I want you to watch the entire video because that's how they help get recommended. So I don't really want you, I don't want to tell you where to jump to for you to find the thing that you want to watch. I want you to watch it and get to it. So like, that's kind of the battle that I always have with like the timestamps and time codes, but I don't think they hurt by any means. I just don't know how much they help.
Okay, that's fair. Rob, what about you? Well, how's your content changed over time?
You know, I'm actually coming in at the reverse. So I mostly, because again, I get to the point very quickly, and I'm not one to make those things longer. So Twitter is a great format for me. TikTok is a good format. Instagram, I figured out a little bit better than I had been with using Reels, but it's YouTube that trying to lengthen some of it and going into more detail. So I'm coming at the exact opposite way that Mark is, which is kind of cool. Like you can do it either way. So I am naturally a very quick hitter. YouTube Shorts is a great content format for a lot of the stuff I do. If I did a couple pitches of the day type stuff and can do it in a minute, that's kind of the way my mind thinks. But off season, definitely the longer format and interviews and stuff. So again, it's just a different kind of challenge. And as far as like competitors, I just enjoy watching, like you mentioned, Foolish Baseball, fantastic. Mark's is fantastic. John Boy's stuff. Like, I don't view anybody as a competitor. It's we're all trying to lift the game in different ways and make it interesting. And honestly, like we need everybody for baseball to be successful. So I love seeing people be successful. If I can help anybody, I always do, because it's just, I don't know. I think it's important for the game.
It really is. Like we're trying to grow the game. We're trying to show it's inclusive. We want everybody to be a part of it and helping out and giving the advice that like you guys are giving today and responding to people on Twitter that have questions. I think and YouTube, that's the way to do it. And you guys are great examples of that. I'm curious, all the content you guys have created, hundreds upon maybe even thousands of pieces of content. Do you guys have a favorite that you've created? Whether it's your most popular video or not, do you have a favorite thing that you've created? Let's start with you, Rob.
Oh, that's hard. So my recent ones, like on YouTube, I really like that knuckleball video I did because it's just like it took a lot of time and it was fun. And the Maddox and Canseco one I did was a lot of fun to do. As far as like, I'm thinking like, I think the Pedro DeGrom comparison was fun. Kind of rotoscoping that. Maybe I did one with Charlie Morton's sinker and curveball a while back, and that was neat. But you know, they stick with you for a little bit, and then you know, like, you're trying to top it. Like if you're naturally, like I'm naturally competitive with myself, not really with other people, but I want to do something better because I don't want to be bored. So I take those as just stepping stones to making something else cooler, and it just depends what day.
That's fair. What do you think, Mark? Is same question for you. Do you same kind of thoughts as Rob? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like my favorite video will always be, I mentioned earlier, like the Jabari Blash one, because I got to meet him, I got to go on the field, interview him. That was the first time that I really got this interaction inside of like actual Major League Baseball, which was really cool. So I always hold a special place for me in terms of videos. But I would say like the ones that I enjoy doing the most are kind of like these like 8 worst trades in MLB history. Like I like going back and looking at stuff and kind of seeing what it looks like now. And I've really enjoyed getting into the MLB draft the last few years. Those have been like really fun videos because I get to do like a lot of analysis, but it's still really like easy to watch if you're not this diehard baseball fan, because who isn't interested in their draft picks? Who isn't interested in the guys coming up? But I get to give you like a more in-depth look because as well, like the MLB draft just doesn't have a whole lot of coverage, especially on YouTube. There's nothing. So like, I love the idea that I can kind of project, kind of like give my analysis and then come back on it in a couple of years and almost see how I did. It's like a quiz in of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point about the MLB draft, because that's one of the areas where I concentrated more on, well, the last few years, college baseball, because it's so much fun. And yeah, you have players playing with emotion. You have kids that care about their school, getting on the field and representing. And when it comes to the draft, a lot of, as a fan of a team, you now know that player if you've seen them play in college. So I think that's part of my goal, is to give more attention to those guys so that it helps grow the sport. Again, like people want to then go to college and play baseball because they may get on one of our channels or get tweeted or something.
Yeah.
That's right. Have you noticed, Rob, there've been a lot of younger guys that wear the pitching ninja gear that you're just kind of like, you're seeing them, you're like, man, like they're already hip with what I'm doing.
Oh, all the time. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I should there's a pitcher for Georgia Tech who just bought my pitching ninja cleats. Who'll be wearing them, so that's going to be really cool. And another cool thing, Devin Williams during a game wore pitching ninja cleats. I forgot about that.
Did he really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The last game. Yep.
Oh my God.
That was crazy. That was very
That's
cool.
how we should have let off the show.
I know, like what the heck?
That's awesome.
That's really awesome. And I did see, you see people like all around the world posting their pitching ninja shirts, and you have a very global brand. Everything that the logo and everything that you're about, it's fantastic for sure.
Well, I think one of the cool things, and I hope we can touch on this a little bit, is like using social media and using YouTube and everything for good.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything doesn't have to be negative comments, crapping on people. We mentioned like admiring other people that are in the, that are doing videos and stuff, and being cool with fans and stuff, and helping them learn. Still being a kid when it comes to like anything player wise, like, hey, they're the famous folks. They're the people that we're just watching and admiring and analyzing, but hopefully in a good, in a good, fun way. But I think and I think most people get that. Like, I think it's contagious if you're positive, and hopefully that's whatever brand I have stands for, is like being a good guy instead of being one of the bad people. I don't know.
No, I think you both do a really good job.
I think Mark does too. Like I enjoy watching his stuff because it's fun, and he's got a very expressive face.
Definitely like to show a little emotion in my thumbnails, just a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's good. You guys are both doing positive. Like Rob, you're not doing like the top 10. You're not doing videos where it's like watching pitchers get homered off of all the time.
Oh, that will never. Yeah, no.
You're showing nasty stuff and you're showing them at their best. And Mark, you're doing fun stuff. You're doing quizzes. You're talking about the top 10 at a position. You're doing all these different things where it's highlighting guys. It's not bringing them down. I think it's a really important point that you brought up with that, Rob. Like people, I don't think want to see the negative side of baseball. They want to click on your stuff because they want to see things that make them happy and make them excited and make them want to watch these things. So yeah, again, both you guys do an incredible job of that.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, especially like with me too, because like you said, like with the rankings and stuff, a lot of time, especially like probably when I first started, not that I was negative, but like I definitely was harsher, I think, than I have now. And I think Rob will probably attest to this too. Like when you have these interactions with players, you like, it makes them very human, because you're like, oh, like, yeah, he throws 99 miles an hour, but like he also is just a normal guy who throws 99 miles an hour. And it's like, you don't ever want to leave someone watching your video and being like, oh, like terrible, awful, like, or have them like feeling bad. Now, granted, like I still wind up Philly fans. I still wind up Yankee fans and stuff like that. But like, I try not to be negative. I just try to, push buttons a little bit here every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. I get that. Now, Rob, I'll go back to you for a second. With some of the videos you've done with players, you've taught other players grips from other pitchers. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the more ridiculous things, but it's so much fun. My favorite is getting a DM from you, Darvish, and ask me about Shane Bieber's knuckle curve. This is it was actually covered by somebody. I mean, it was in newspapers in Japan and here, but he literally, like, out of the blue, I'm at dinner with my wife and she's like, get off your phone. I'm like, I can't. You Darvish is DMing me. And meanwhile, like, so he asked me I went home and found some really good videos of Bieber's knuckle curve. And the very next day he went out and threw it in the bullpen. He told me how it was. And he's like, I think I got it. Threw it in a game the next time out, but actually used it as a slider grip instead of a knuckle curve grip to get the axis of rotation the way he wanted it to. And he ended up like K-ing 13 guys. And someone asked him, how did you do that? And he said, pitching ninja. And I was like, that's awesome. like how sick is that? But yeah, all the time that happens. Like Alek Manoah credited me for his slider. And I'm like, dude, that's like one of my favorite pitches in baseball. And
so sick.
Yeah. Like that's freaking, it still is amazing to me when that stuff happens. I love it. Like, that's why I do this stuff. That is so much fun.
And it's, you pretty much like, you're getting the information for them. Like you're finding where to find it. And then I'm sure you're zooming in on their fingers and the grips so they can see it better. And it's cool that they're all crediting you too, because that's why you've become so globally known. Everybody just like, yeah, go to the Pitching Ninja if you need help with like working on a pitch. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, like part of it is it's again coming from the coaching angle. So I know what they're looking for. I know what I would teach a player how to do, and that's actually why I started doing that. And actually early on, Nick helped me a ton. Like over at Pitcher List, he was giving me like he said, here's a grip for the great Pitching Ninja, and we'd go back and forth on stuff. So I just want to shout him out too, because I mean, absolutely great dude, and he was very influential in what I do. So big credit.
One of the things that kind of transitioning here that you guys both do in your videos, you have a lot of visual elements. So Rob, you have obviously when you do your GIFs, you'll have like the tails on pitches, and Mark, obviously won't just show like highlights, you'll have graphics that pop up on screen. Does that extra work, do you find, just really set yourself apart from others and kind of make you feel better about the content you're putting out there? We can start with you, Mark.
Yeah, I think as much as I said like the content isn't super important before, like there are little things that I think people appreciate, and something for me at least, because when I'll read out stats, right, when I'm showing highlights of guys and talking about their ranks, it's important to put those stats on the screen, because while people are listening, people are visual as well. Like they are watching the video. So to add that other element in there, it probably helps with watch time. It probably helps keep people engaged. Because, you watch 20 minutes of highlights, it can get a little daunting. It can get a little repetitive at times to see 300 home runs be hit. But adding those numbers on there, adding even just like a little graphic just to give something the eye to look at, I think it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, I would say all of the stuff I do has to be that way, because I want to show everybody, like, part of it also is I think Lindsay Adler said, low key Pitching Ninja is a hitting account. And it kind of is, because it makes people stop saying, why did he swing at that? You understand like why this game is so hard, and hopefully educating fans into knowing more. So I have to come up with different ways of showing that. That's where tails came about, overlays came about, to show like, hey, this is what a hitter's actually seeing. Yeah, that pitch was out of its zone, but he thought it was a fastball half the way to the plate. So it's important to just keep trying to show that type of stuff, and really understanding the intricacies of the sport in a way that you can also explain it to somebody that's never seen the sport.
I'll even say, like, for me, which is funny because you talk about like the hitting account, I've like seen your stuff on Twitter, and I did a little video on like Jeff McNeil once about like his different stance and like how stuff was looking, and like Jeff like reached out to me, I was like, oh thanks, like need to see that, like appreciate it. But I'm like, I saw that because I saw what you did like pitching wise. I'm like, well, like hitting, like this still, while it's not like as specific with grips and stuff, like a stance is almost like their grip, and like the way that they're loading, like this is all stuff that you could use and apply to hitting. And it's like, just, it's interesting how you can like see this stuff and apply it to other things.
Absolutely.
I think baseball, more than any other sport, they can connect with fans of the game, and they can see things like, hey, I didn't notice that. Like, you're not seeing too many NBA guys reaching out and being like, oh, like this is what's wrong with my jump shot, I'm going to fix that. Or you don't see too many NFL quarterbacks being like, oh, I'm taking a 4-step drop when I should be taking a 6-step drop or something like that. That's what I think is so cool about baseball and content creation, and guys like yourselves who have built up a following. So when you do stuff like that and these players see it, then they can be like, hey, thanks to you've helped fix this for me. So I think that's one of the most awesome things about what you guys are doing.
Well, yeah, and I think that is an acquired skill too, as you do this more. And that's why I was saying you have to really work hard and really focus on what you do, so that you develop your own style, but you also can see these little things and find different ways to present it to somebody, and your eye gets trained better and better and better too. So that's why work is important, and consistency of putting out content.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So I'm going out there today and I say, I want to start creating baseball content. You guys got me excited. I've watched this stream. Let's do it. What would you say are some tools that you would give them, some advice or tools you would give the person that wants to start it? Like, what are the essentials that you think they need to create baseball content? And Mark, we can start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, from like an equipment standpoint, like I think you just need to have something that like you sound audible. Like you don't, like, even like an iPhone headphone, it's okay. Like I think that's fine because you'll still be able to hear them clearly. You want to be able to be heard, or if you have a video aspect, you want to be able to be seen, right? Because if it's bad audio or bad video, at least on YouTube, someone's clicking off right immediately. It doesn't matter how good the video is. If it sounds awful, looks awful, no one's watching. But like also like you kind of, like Rob said, like you kind of just have to go for it and keep working. Like it's kind of cliche to say like you have to grind and stuff, but like it is true. Like you're not just going to make one video and have it pop off and all of a sudden have this account that is now your job or what you do for a living. But like working on what you do, continuing to try to improve the content that you're making, watch other content. Don't just watch baseball stuff, watch basketball, watch video game content, whatever it is. Like you have to really be involved in not only your niche or what you're covering in terms of baseball, but also just in content creation in general, because you can learn so much and you can take what those people are doing, put your own little spin on it, and you can find something that works for you. It's just, you have to keep working. I always say this, people ask me like, how do I get found? If you make good stuff, I promise you will get found. There's no one that I've come across yet that has never been seen that makes good stuff. Like everyone finds it, especially in the baseball world where there really is such a small niche of like, you know, everyday baseball creators. We will find you and they will be watched. Like your hard work won't go unrecognized.
I think it's having you need either a long neck or a beard.
Yes,
that is the key, or a cool logo or something. You need something now. I would say like another key is knowing when to take a comment that somebody gives you seriously and say, hey, I suck at this. You're right. You called me out, not get your feelings hurt, and learn from it, versus somebody's just hating, trolling, doing whatever. You have to be able to distinguish those two, but also learn. Like it is all about getting better all the time. Just like any sport, any job, anything. If you get a little better at what you do every day, eventually you'll get really good. If you keep doing it and you're on there for a long time. So as far as equipment, I mean, I think it depends what you want to do. Like I've recommended, even like for simple stuff, you can use something like Filmora for editing, but I also use like Adobe After Effects and, you know, all the Adobe products, and then, you know, screen capture stuff. And there's a whole bunch of things, and cameras and nice mics and lights. And I don't know, like it's all about everything.
I think like it's super important too. Like even if you look back at like original stuff that like me and Rob did, like you'll see there's such a huge change in what our first videos were to what we do now. And it might be hard to understand because you see it and you're like, oh, Mark's got 200,000 subscribers. Rob's got 500,000 or whatever he has on Twitter. Like they have this huge following. Like I want to get there, but you don't realize that we all started at like step one, and it's not the same spot that we're at right now. Like there is that growth, like you said, just like with anything you do.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and set goals for yourself. Like I set little goals that are silly, like, no, you know, hey, I want to get to this number by this. You know, I want this. I hope I get this many views on this. But keep doing it and setting little goals, not because you're gonna live or die by them, but because it's a challenge and keeps you moving and keeps you iterating and getting better at what you do.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I don't know about you, Rob, but like I love chasing numbers. Like, it's like, okay, I did this, now I want to do better. Like, I think you mentioned earlier with like the steps that you use as like, okay, this is a stepping stone to the next thing. Like, it's, at least for me, like, it's almost like a competition essentially. Like, can I outperform? Can I do better? Can I do this? Can I gain X amount of subscribers in a week? Like that kind of stuff also keeps me really involved and wanting to do more.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could probably see, you know, your base audience on a YouTube video or the base amount of impressions you get on a tweet, and you can see them go up over time to where you're like, hey, this is my floor. This is what I'm hitting every single video I put out, even if it's just a half an effort that I'm doing. These are the people that are tuning in or clicking on my tweets or doing whatever every single time I put something out. Does that kind of give you, I guess, Mark, you kind of alluded to, that gives you that confidence. You're like, hey, these are people tuning in every week to my stuff. So I know I have them. Now let's get more. That's kind of that number is big for you, for Mark? And then
yeah. I mean, like for me, I know like the first time I had like a video really pop off, like it was kind of like an aha moment. So it was like, okay, how do I keep having these? Because it, like, obviously it's cool, like getting a lot of views on a video. That's what everyone wants to do. But like the idea is that what worked in this and how can I continue to get those same people back? That's kind of like it's almost like a puzzle, like trying to figure out exactly what's working. And the numbers, it's definitely super important to me, super motivating to continue to keep pushing forward and forward and forward. Otherwise, like I would have stopped a while ago if I really didn't care about the numbers at the end of the day.
The other thing, sometimes things suck. Like there have been times, like once a year, I'll say something that in retrospect, like right after I tweeted it, it's stupid. And I'll read comments and they'll say, yeah, you might want to delete that. I'm like, should I or should, you know, you have to reassess yourself intelligently And sometimes what you said wasn't, said exactly right or something like that. But don't have too big an ego to think you're always right, and learn from people. Like, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. Being wrong all the time sucks, but every once in a while it's cool. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just like, as long as I don't continue to make the same mistake, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Exactly.
That kind of gets me to the last question I'll ask you guys here. What was the biggest mistake you guys made along the way that you would try to recommend people don't do when they're kind of starting out on their journey?
Wow, that's interesting. I think for me, at least, like the biggest mistake, I think, like, honestly, not really going like, it's so lame, but like not really going full into it when I knew I could and when I knew I was able to. Like the idea of that, like at points in time, I was not embarrassed, but like very quiet about what I was doing. I didn't tell people about it. I wasn't like super excited for people to know about like my YouTube persona, because it was so vastly different from like what I actually am. So I think if I could go back, I probably would have started earlier, but a lot more confident with it earlier, and really just like from the start, do what I want to do, like get involved, be louder, be a bigger part of it. I think that would probably be my biggest regret, is just like that it didn't click in my head earlier that like, this is really cool. I should be proud of what I'm doing.
That is a great point. I would say there's two different things. One is, I don't think there is a mistake necessarily, because I think it's great to make mistakes and learn from it and stuff. And I don't think any of the mistakes that I've made along the way were big. Even the bigger mistakes probably ended up paying off in the long run, because you decide not to do that, or you somehow benefit from it. But also adopting it. Like, I wouldn't wear Pitching Ninja stuff for the longest time. Like, I just wouldn't. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. And I'm like, you know what? I would way rather be known as Pitching Ninja than Lawyer Man or something like that. like Lawyer Man, kind of lame. Pitching Ninja, I mean, it's kind of cool. I was at a bar the other day and had my hat on the table, and somebody said, "Cool Pitching Ninja hat." And I was like, wait, I'm Pitching Ninja. He's like, no way. I didn't. I was like that stuff is amazing to me, that anybody ever know. Like, but it's like adopting it, living it, making it be part of you, I think is important. It's really cool. Exactly what Mark said.
Do you find yourself wearing like Pitching Ninja stuff most of the time when you go out, or is it kind of like once or twice a week I'll wear it?
Oh, it depends. Like, if I go out, I'll probably wear like a hat at least, or something like that. Like I probably not head to toe, but I did it like at the All-Star game. I did, because I want people to recognize me. I don't want to be just a normal dude. Like, at this point, I don't care. Like, I just don't care. I'm kind of proud of the brand that I've built, and happy that it brings joy to other people, that people, when they see it, love it. So another example, there's someone on a line getting beers and was wearing a Pitching Ninja shirt. I just tapped him on the shoulder and like, nice shirt. And he was like, thanks, yours is cool too. Wait, you're a Pitching Ninja. And I was like, yeah, like, oh my God. And I was like, that's so, I can't imagine what a real person goes through that should be known for something, or like that's like this Class C famous person.
Well, you guys have just spat out a ton of good information for everybody that's looking to create content. Just to close this out, what is one thing that you want to make sure that the audience leaves with, again, that wants to create content? What's your biggest piece of advice for them along the way? And Rob, we could start with you.
Yeah, it's just not that easy, but also, find your own voice, iterate, change it. Like, be sure you're always getting better. I think, like everything else in life, getting a little bit better every day will make you really good. And the only way to do that is by doing it every day. And ask questions. Like, I know I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm sure Mark is more than happy to answer questions. And it's really about we're one big community. There's multiple people in it that can grow it. And the more, the merrier.
Couldn't agree more with anything you said. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, no, what Rob said like was perfect. I mean, the fact that like this baseball community, it really is just still in its like infancy phase. Like, when you look at all the other even sports communities, like they are still, I feel like, a lot larger, but it's not because they're better by any means. It's just like baseball has for a long time like really kind of been like, handcuffed a little bit with what we can do. And luckily it's getting a little bit better as we move on. And yeah, I mean, like just join it, be a part of it, give it a shot. And I know your numbers are going to stink at the start. It's going to happen. They're going to be incredibly low. You're going to be disappointed, but like, try your hardest not to. Try to take everything as like a little bit of like, oh, I got 10 views today. That's 10 more than 0. Like I could have had 0. It sounds cheesy. It sounds lame, but like, if you really want to do this, try it. I promise you, the community is very open arms. You make good stuff. We will happily bring you in. Even if you don't, you talk baseball, like that alone is just so huge. Trying to grow the game at the end of the day, more the merrier. Please get involved.
You make a really good point, because I think it's really important that MLB has figured out that this is an important aspect of what they do, because they can't make things organically like we all can, and like other people that are getting involved can. They need different voices. We need more, getting just totally different views of stuff from is important versus former players constantly, giving it's just not, it's not the same. So I think it is on all of us to grow the game that we all love. And I'm glad baseball agrees.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a nice weight off of both of our shoulders that like, there's just now an acceptance of what we do, as opposed to like a fight of what we do.
As someone that's gotten banned on Twitter because of from MLB, I would say that's definitely true.
Yeah, and just again, just to echo kind of what they said, anybody that's looking to create baseball content, fantasy baseball content, whatever kind of content, this community is the best place out there. My personal favorite of all I dabble in all 3 sports and the 3 main sports, and this is by far the best community. Everybody's always willing to help out if you ask a question, or even if someone like myself who started a podcast back in March of 2020, you ask these guys to come on your show, give you 30 minutes of their time. Everybody's always saying yes and willing to give you advice and help you out. Nick Pollock, in our podcast, we reached out to him about a year ago, and he told us the equipment to use as far as better mics, helped us with Audacity to make our podcast sound better. It's like that type of advice is only here in this type of community. And don't ever be scared to start it. Again, you have to start somewhere, and you will learn so many things along the way. You'll meet so many great people. And again, I can't recommend enough, even if it's like Mark said, you get 10 listens or something like that. It's 10 more than 0. And that's 10 people that are listening to you, whatever you have to say, all your stuff. And it's a blast to do this. So please, if you're thinking about it, just go ahead and dive in, even if you're not getting big numbers from the start, because you're going to enjoy it. And it's just an absolute blast. So on that note, I just want to thank you guys for giving all the great advice that you did today. And even me, myself, like, again, I'm trying to grow my brand and my content, taking all the stuff that your guys are saying and applying it myself. It's just really awesome to hear from you guys. And you guys, again, are doing great work. So thank you for all the great knowledge you guys gave today.
I need to work on my expressions. I know that.
Hey, listen, my DMs are always open. Anytime you need help with the thumbnail face, I got you.
Okay. Very cool.
What? Yeah.
This was awesome, guys. Seriously, I'm like David here. I just jumped into the YouTube thing this year. I'm starting to learn it. I'm trying to get into it a little bit. But first of all, I gotta say, Rob, your lighting looks amazing right now.
So good.
Oh, thank you.
Just really good, soft lighting. I don't know what you've done.
Dude, it's
last
just me.
PitchCon
Like, there's
something.
like, it's just my natural good looks.
You're ready to record a YouTube video. You got it all down.
That's a glow that we all dream of. Okay. But I mean, not to say yours isn't bad, Mark. All right.
Yeah,
but,
I know, Nick. Where's the
right now,
where's the
a little
praise?
Scattered.
I gotta
David,
get better lighting too.
He's trying. He's doing what he can.
Yeah. My apartment isn't great.
It's clear that these guys are the YouTube and massive content machines that they are. But really, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. Seriously, Rob, I can certainly relate to getting MLB's hammer, being the nail there a little bit. I remember that exactly. It was Noah Syndergaard's fastball. That was the whole...
That's exactly right.
Oh man, that was ridiculous. I had it during the right before the playoffs were starting. Actually, maybe Game 1 of the World Series. I got banned for 4 hours on Twitter.
I remember we used to go back and forth on that in DMs. Like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And
guys, we are helping you. We're so much.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
much.
Nobody watches our tweets or videos and doesn't watch games. They watch them more because of it.
Not it's not a replacement for it. Right. Yeah. I wanted to actually, I was an idiot in 2014 when they shut me down as pitcher gifts. I was trying to propose to them, no, I want to make an iPhone game where people have to guess the pitch and I'll teach them and make it regional and all this stuff. And I was like, they won't listen to me. What am I even thinking for a second, Oh, you naive summer child. But But anyway, it's been so awesome seeing you guys grow and being what you are. And as you mentioned before, rising tide carries all boats, right?
Absolutely.
And seeing you guys as those torchbearers, makes it easy for me to like pass on all this stuff. We're standing on giants over here, so
well, I
easy
mentioned
for me
thanks
to pass it down to David.
Thanks for your help in the early days too, where you were helping getting me grips and all that stuff. Like I was just coming out from the coaching angle, and you were very instrumental in that. So, like we said, we're all one big community.
Everybody's helping everybody.
Yeah. The work you guys have put in is absurd and crazy. So thank you all so much, David, Mark, Pitching Ninja. Thanks guys for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.